A millionaire executive ignores the desperate pleas of a boy who claims his mother is trapped in a dumpster. Hours later, haunted by past traumas, he decides to return to the scene and finds the boy still watching over the trash. When he opens the lid, the truth comes to light, and what he finds leaves him shocked. If this story interested you, don't forget to subscribe to our channel and tell us what city you're watching us from. We'll keep going. The sleek black Audi cut through the morning mist like a shark through still waters. Ethan Blackwell's hands gripped the leather steering wheel as he navigated the winding roads leading into Pinewood Springs, Vermont. Fall had painted the surrounding mountains in vibrant shades of amber and crimson, but Ethan barely noticed the picturesque scenery. His mind was fixed on the upcoming meeting with potential investors for his tech company's newest venture, a deal worth millions that could solidify his already impressive fortune. As the GPS announced his arrival at the town square, Ethan slowed down, scanning for a parking spot. Pinewood Springs was exactly what he'd expected: quaint, picturesque, and forgettable. Just another pit stop in his relentless pursuit of success. He'd be back in Boston by tomorrow afternoon, if everything went according to plan. Checking his Rolex, Ethan noted he had 40 minutes before his meeting. Enough time to grab a coffee and review his presentation once more. He parked near a cafe called The Hearth, its warm lights inviting against the cool autumn air. As he stepped out of his car and activated the alarm with a casual press of his key fob, a sound caught his attention. Please help, my mom's trapped." Ethan turned to see a boy, no older than 9 or 10, running toward him from across the square. The child's face was streaked with tears, his clothes rumpled as if he'd been wearing them for days. Something about the desperation in his eyes made Ethan pause, his hand on the cafe door. "My mom! She's stuck in there!" The boy pointed frantically toward a large waste container tucked in an alley between two buildings. "No one believes me. Please, you gotta help me." Ethan's jaw tightened. This wasn't his problem. He had $1 million meeting to prepare for, and this was clearly some kind of prank or misunderstanding. Kids and their games. He'd seen enough of them in his corporate world, just adult versions playing for higher stakes. "Look, kid, I'm sure your mom is fine. Maybe you should go find a police officer," Ethan said dismissively, pushing open the cafe door. The warm scent of coffee and pastries enveloped him. "No, please." The boy grabbed his sleeve, his small fingers clutching the expensive fabric. "I've been telling everyone. The police think I'm making it up. She's in there, I swear." Ethan gently but firmly removed the child's hand from his jacket. "I'm sorry, but I can't help you. I have an important meeting." With that, he stepped inside, the bell above the door jingling cheerfully as it closed behind him. From his window seat, Ethan watched the boy return to the alley, sitting down beside the container, his small shoulders slumped in defeat. For a moment, something tugged at Ethan's conscience, but he pushed it aside, focusing instead on the presentation before him. By the time Ethan checked into the Pinewood Springs Inn that evening, the meeting had gone exceptionally well. The potential investors were impressed with his proposal, and the preliminary paperwork was already being drawn up. He should have felt triumphant, but as he settled into his suite, a strange unease gnawed at him. In the quiet of the elegant room, memories he'd long suppressed began to surface. Images of another boy, decades ago, crying for help while adults passed by, too busy with their own concerns to listen. That boy had been Ethan himself, desperately trying to alert neighbors about his father's violent outbursts, only to be dismissed as attention-seeking or imaginative. Ethan poured himself a glass of scotch from the minibar and walked to the window. Night had fallen over Pinewood Springs, the small town now illuminated by streetlights and the occasional passing car. He wondered about the boy from earlier. Had anyone helped him? Had he gone home? Sleep eluded Ethan that night. He tossed and turned, haunted by the boy's pleading eyes and his own callous response. By dawn, he knew what he had to do. Dressing quickly, he left the hotel and drove back to the town square, half expecting to find nothing, proof that it had indeed been some childish game. What he saw stopped him cold. The boy was still there, huddled against the waste container, his small body curled up on the cold ground. He appeared to have spent the entire night there, keeping vigil. As Ethan approached, the child looked up, recognition and a flicker of hope crossing his exhausted face. "You came back," the boy said, his voice hoarse. "What's your name, kid?" Ethan asked, kneeling down to the boy's level. Tommy Wilson." "I'm Ethan. Tell me again about your mom." Tommy's words tumbled out in a rush. "My mom's name is Sarah. She's been missing for 3 days. My Uncle Mike said she went on a trip, but she wouldn't leave without telling me. Then yesterday I heard something from in there." He pointed at the container. "I heard her voice. I know she's in there, but nobody will listen." Ethan studied the container. It was large, industrial-sized, with a heavy lid. The thought of someone being trapped inside was horrifying. If there was even the slightest chance the boy was telling the truth. "Have you told the police?" Tommy nodded vigorously. "The sheriff laughed at me. He said I was making up stories because I miss her." Ethan made a decision. Pulling out his phone, he dialed 911. "This is Ethan Blackwell. I'm at the town square in Pinewood Springs and I need police assistance immediately. I have reason to believe a woman may be trapped in a waste container here." As they waited, a small crowd began to gather, drawn by curiosity. Ethan heard whispers, saw the knowing looks exchanged. "That's the Wilson boy, always making up stories." "Poor. Kid's been saying his mama's in the garbage since yesterday. Probably just wants attention since his dad left." The sheriff arrived, a stocky man with a weathered face and skeptical eyes. "Mr. Blackwell, I'm Sheriff Jack Reynolds. I understand. You called about Sarah Wilson?" "This boy believes his mother is trapped in this container," Ethan said firmly. "I think we need to open it and check." Reynolds sighed. "Tommy here has been telling this tale to anyone who'll listen. We've already checked his house, his uncle. Michael says Sarah took off for a few days, needed some space, it happens." "Then you won't mind opening it," Ethan insisted, "just to be sure." The sheriff looked annoyed but nodded to a deputy. "Fine, let's put this nonsense to rest." As the deputy struggled with the heavy lid, Tommy pressed closer to Ethan, his small hand finding Ethan's almost unconsciously. The connection sent a jolt through Ethan. This child whom he dismissed so easily yesterday now trusted him to help. When the lid finally gave way, a putrid smell erupted from the container, causing several onlookers to step back, covering their noses. The deputy shone his flashlight inside, his expression changing from annoyed to horrified in an instant. "Jesus Christ," he whispered. "There's someone in here." Tommy surged forward. "Mom! Mom!" Ethan caught him by the shoulders as the sheriff and deputy reached into the container, carefully lifting out a woman. She was barely conscious, her clothes torn and dirty, her limbs bound with duct tape. Despite her condition, Ethan could see she'd once been beautiful, with the same golden hair as Tommy. "Mom!" Tommy's anguished cry cut through the murmurs of the shocked crowd. The woman's eyes fluttered open at the sound of her son's voice, a weak moan escaping her cracked lips. Sheriff Reynolds was already calling for an ambulance, his earlier skepticism replaced by urgent professionalism. Ethan held Tommy back, protecting him from the full sight of his mother's condition, feeling the boy tremble against him. As the paramedics arrived and carefully placed Sarah Wilson on a stretcher, Ethan made another decision. This wasn't just about assuaging his guilt anymore. Something terrible had happened here, something that went beyond a woman being abandoned. The bindings, the deliberate concealment. This was no accident. "Tommy," he said quietly as they watched the ambulance doors close around Sarah, "I'm going to help you and your mom. I promise." The boy looked up at him, tears streaming down. His face, "You believe me?" It wasn't a question, but Ethan answered anyway. "I believe you." The antiseptic smell of Pinewood Springs General Hospital was a stark contrast to the putrid odor of the waste container. Ethan sat in the waiting room, his laptop open but untouched, as Tommy paced nervously by the vending machine. 3 hours had passed since they'd arrived in the ambulance with Sarah, and there had been no updates yet. Ethan had already rescheduled his flight and meetings. His assistant in Boston was bewildered by his sudden change of plans, but Ethan couldn't explain what he himself didn't fully understand. All he knew was that he couldn't leave yet. The image of Sarah Wilson's bound body being lifted from that container had seared itself into his mind. "Mr. Blackwell?" A doctor in blue scrubs approached, her expression carefully neutral. "I'm Dr. Natalie Chen. I've been treating Ms. Wilson." Ethan stood and Tommy rushed to his side, his small face pinched with worry. "How is she?" Ethan asked, placing a steadying hand on Tommy's shoulder. Dr. Chen glanced at Tommy, then back at Ethan. "Perhaps we could speak privately for a moment." "No," Tommy protested. "I want to know about my mom." The doctor hesitated, then knelt to Tommy's level. "Your mom is stable now, Tommy. She's very weak, but she's going to recover. You'll be able to see her soon, I promise." As Tommy's shoulders sagged with relief, Dr. Chen stood and gestured for Ethan to follow her a few steps away. Out of the boy's earshot, her expression grew grave. Ms. Wilson was severely dehydrated and suffering from hypothermia. She has multiple contusions, hand lacerations consistent with a physical assault. There's evidence she was drugged, likely with a benzodiazepine. We're still running tests, but it's clear she was deliberately imprisoned in that container. This wasn't an accident, Mr. Blackwell. Ethan's jaw tightened. Has she said anything about what happened? She was semi-conscious when she arrived, but she's been able to communicate intermittently. She's asking for her son and... Dr. Chen lowered her voice further. She mentioned a name repeatedly. Michael. She said, "Michael did this." The information settled like a stone in Ethan's stomach. Michael, the Uncle Tommy had mentioned, who claimed Sarah had just gone away for a few days. "Sheriff Reynolds needs to hear this," Ethan said. "Is she coherent enough to give a statement?" "Not yet. She needs rest and fluids, maybe tomorrow. For now, I'd suggest you take care of that boy. He's been through a lot." Ethan nodded, glancing back at Tommy, who was watching them intently. "Can he see his mother briefly?" 5 minutes, Dr. Chen agreed. "But prepare him. She's hooked up to several machines and she looks pretty rough." Ethan returned to Tommy and knelt before him, just as the doctor had done. "Your mom is awake and she's asking for you. We can go see her, but just for a few minutes, okay? She needs to rest to get better." Tommy nodded, his eyes wide. Is she hurt bad?" Ethan chose his words carefully. "She's been through a lot, but Dr. Chen says she's going to recover. There are some machines helping her get better, so don't be scared when you see them." When they entered Sarah Wilson's room, Ethan felt Tommy's hand slip into his again, squeezing tight. Sarah lay in the hospital bed, an IV drip attached to one arm, monitoring equipment beeping softly beside her. Her face was bruised, one eye swollen shut, but when she saw Tommy, she managed a weak smile. "My brave boy," she whispered as Tommy approached the bed cautiously. "You found me." "I knew you wouldn't leave me, Mom," Tommy said, his voice quavering. "I told everyone you were in there, but nobody listened except Mr. Blackwell." Sarah's gaze shifted to Ethan, standing awkwardly at the foot of her bed. "Thank you," she said, each word clearly an effort. "For believing him." "I'm just glad we found you in time," Ethan replied, uncomfortable with gratitude he didn't deserve. Had he listened to Tommy yesterday, Sarah would have been spared hours of suffering. A nurse appeared at the doorway. "I'm sorry, but Ms. Wilson needs her rest now." Tommy leaned forward to kiss his mother's cheek. "I'll come back later, Mom. I love you." "Love you too, sweetheart," Sarah whispered, her eyelids already drooping. In the corridor, they found Sheriff Reynolds waiting, his hat in his hands. "The doctor filled me in," he said, his earlier skepticism replaced by grim professionalism. "Tommy, is there someone who can stay with you while your mom's in the hospital? Any family nearby?" Tommy's face clouded. "Just Uncle Mike, but he—" The boy trailed off, looking uncertainly at Ethan. Dr. Chen mentioned that Sarah named Michael as her attacker, Ethan said quietly. The sheriff's expression darkened. "Michael Wilson is Sarah's brother and Tommy's legal guardian when she's unavailable. He's a prominent businessman in town, owns the local car dealership and some real estate. He's also on the town council." Are you saying you won't investigate him? Ethan asked, his voice hardening. I'm saying this is a delicate situation, Reynolds replied. I'll need to get a formal statement from Sarah when she's able. In the meantime, I've got deputies looking for Michael now. A commotion at the end of the hallway drew their attention. A tall man in an expensive suit was arguing with a nurse at the reception desk. His silver hair was perfectly styled, his face flushed with what appeared to be concern. That's him, Tommy whispered, instinctively stepping behind Ethan. That's Uncle Mike. Michael Wilson spotted them and hurried over, his expression morphing into one of relief. Tommy, thank God you're all right. I've been looking everywhere for you. The sheriff stepped forward. Michael, we need to talk. Michael blinked, seeming to notice the sheriff's serious demeanor for the first time. Jack, what's going on? I just heard Sarah was found in some kind of accident. Is she okay? This wasn't an accident, Reynolds said firmly. Sarah was assaulted and left in a waste container. She's named you as her attacker. Michael's face registered shock, then disbelief, then something like pained understanding. Oh God, not again, he said, running a hand through his hair. Sheriff, my sister has episodes. She's been struggling with mental health issues for years. I've been trying to get her proper treatment, but she refuses. Mental health issues? Ethan couldn't keep the incredulity from his voice. The woman was bound and left to die. Michael turned to him, seeming to notice Ethan for the first time. I'm sorry, who are you exactly? Ethan Blackwell. I found your sister and nephew this morning. Mr. Blackwell, I appreciate your concern, but this is a family matter, Michael said smoothly. Sarah has a history of paranoid episodes and self-harm. I've been trying to get her committed for proper treatment, but it's complicated. Tommy stepped out from behind Ethan. You're lying. Mum doesn't hurt herself. You did this. Michael's expression softened as he looked at his nephew. Tommy, I know this is confusing. Your mom loves you, but she's sick. She needs help that I've been trying to get her. We found her bound with duct tape, the sheriff interjected. That's not self-harm, Michael. During her episodes, she's done similar things before, Michael countered. I have documentation from her psychiatrist. She's had these delusions about me before, claiming I'm trying to steal her property or harm her. It's part of her illness, Ethan. Watched this performance with growing disbelief. The man was good, concerned, reasonable, just a brother trying to help his troubled sister. But Ethan had spent years reading people across negotiation tables. He recognized the calculated precision in Michael's words, the too-perfect presentation of concern. Where were you 3 days ago, Mr. Wilson? Ethan asked. Michael's eyes narrowed slightly. Again, Mr. Blackwell, I'm not sure what standing you have in this situation, but I was at a car dealer's convention in Burlington. I have dozens of witnesses. When I returned and found Sarah missing, I assumed she'd checked herself into the psychiatric facility in Montpelier. She's done it before. I've been making calls trying to locate her. The sheriff looked troubled. Michael, I still need you to come down to the station to make a formal statement. Of course, Jack, whatever helps sort this out. Michael turned to Tommy. Come on, buddy. Let's get you home while the sheriff and the doctors help your mum. Tommy backed away, pressing against Ethan's side. No, I'm staying with Mom. Tommy, your mom needs rest, Michael said, reaching for the boy's arm. We can come back tomorrow. Ethan stepped between them. Actually, I think Tommy should stay here for now, until his mother can provide more information. Michael's pleasant expression flickered for just an instant. Mr. Blackwell, I appreciate your concern, but as Tommy's legal guardian in Sarah's absence, I'll be taking him home now. Sheriff Reynolds cleared his throat. Given the circumstances, Michael, it might be best if Tommy stays with a neutral third party until we sort this out. Are you saying I'm a suspect? Michael's voice rose slightly. Based on the confused statements of my mentally ill sister? I'm saying we need to investigate thoroughly, Reynolds replied. Standard procedure. A tense silence stretched between them. Then Michael shrugged, his composure returning. Fine, if it helps clear up this misunderstanding faster, I won't object. But who would Tommy stay with? He hardly knows anyone outside family. I can arrange a temporary placement with a foster family in the county, the sheriff began. "I'll take him," Ethan heard himself say, surprising even himself. "He can stay with me at the inn until this is resolved." Tommy looked up at him with such naked hope that Ethan knew he couldn't retract the offer, even as he wondered what had possessed him to make it. Sheriff Reynolds considered this. "Mr. Blackwell is staying at the Pinewood Springs Inn, Michael. It's a public place, and Tommy would be comfortable there, just until we get Sarah's statement and sort this out." Michael studied Ethan with cold calculation. "I suppose that would be acceptable, temporarily." He turned to Tommy. "I'll bring your things to the inn, buddy. Try not to worry about your mom. We'll get her the help she needs." As Michael walked away with the sheriff, Tommy whispered, "He's going to try to hurt her again." Ethan watched Michael's retreating back, noting the perfect posture, the air of confident authority. "No, he won't," Ethan promised. "We're going to make sure of that." But as they headed to the hospital cafeteria, Ethan couldn't shake the feeling that they had just entered a dangerous game with a skilled opponent, one who had the home field advantage in this small town where the Wilsons had history, and Ethan was just a passing stranger. The Pinewood Springs Inn wasn't accustomed to housing children, but the staff had been remarkably accommodating once. Ethan explained the situation, or at least a sanitized version of it. The manager had connected 2 rooms with a shared door, giving Tommy his own space while keeping him close to Ethan. Now, watching the boy pick listlessly at his pancakes, during breakfast in the inn's dining room, Ethan realized how unprepared he was for this impromptu guardianship. "Not hungry?" he asked, setting aside his phone where he'd been messaging with his executive team in Boston. Tommy shrugged. "Can we go see Mom today?" "Absolutely. Dr. Chen called earlier and said your mum's doing better this morning. Visiting hours start at 10. The boy's face brightened slightly, then fell again. "Uncle Mike will probably be there." Ethan took a sip of his coffee, weighing his next words carefully. "Tommy, can you tell me more about your uncle and about your mom?" Tommy set down his fork. "Mom's a teacher, 3rd grade at Pinewood Elementary. Everyone likes her except when Uncle Mike started telling people she's crazy. She's not crazy," he added fiercely. "I believe you," Ethan assured him. "What about your uncle? Has he always lived here in town?" "Yeah. He sells cars and owns some buildings. He's always been nice to me until—" Tommy hesitated. "Until when?" "Until Grandma died last year. She left her house to Mom and some money too. Uncle Mike got mad. He said Grandma should have split everything up fair, but she gave most stuff to Mom to take care of me." Tommy's young face grew serious. That's when he started telling people Mom was sick in the head. A familiar pattern emerged in Ethan's mind. Family resentment, inheritance disputes, the gradual undermining of a sibling's credibility. He'd seen similar scenarios play out in the corporate world, though rarely with such potentially violent outcomes. "And your dad?" Ethan asked gently. "He left when I was little. Mom says he's in California now." Tommy pushed his plate away. "Can we go to the hospital now?" The hospital corridors seemed less intimidating in the daylight. Sarah Wilson's room was flooded with morning sun, making her appear less fragile than she had the previous evening. She was sitting up, her blonde hair freshly brushed, though the bruises on her face had darkened overnight. When Tommy ran to her bedside, her face lit up despite the pain it clearly caused her to smile. Ethan hung back, giving them privacy for their reunion. After a few minutes, Sarah looked up at him. "Mr. Blackwell, could I speak with you?" Her voice was stronger today, though still raspy. As Ethan approached the bed, he noted her clear blue eyes, the same shade as Tommy's, and the intelligence behind them. "Tommy says you're staying at the inn, that you're taking care of him while I'm here." She reached for her son's hand. "I can't thank you enough." "It's no trouble," Ethan replied, uncomfortable with her gratitude. "I'm happy to help until you're back on your feet." Sarah's expression grew serious. "Has Michael been to see you?" "He was here last night at the hospital. He tried to take Tommy with him." A flash of fear crossed Sarah's face. She lowered her voice. "Michael is the one who did this to me. He drugged me, beat me, and left me in that container to die." Mom already told the sheriff, Tommy said. But Uncle Mike is telling everyone she's making it up because she's sick. Why would your brother do this? Ethan asked. Sarah closed her eyes briefly. My mother left her house and savings to me after she passed last year. Michael's been trying to get me to sign everything over to him. He's in trouble, gambling debts, I think. 3 days ago, he came to my classroom after school, said he needed me to sign some papers urgently. I followed him to his office, and that's the last thing I remember clearly until I was in that awful place, and I could hear Tommy calling for me. A nurse entered with a clipboard, interrupting their conversation. Ms. Wilson, Dr. Chen ordered some additional tests. We'll need to take you down to radiology in about 15 minutes. As the nurse checked Sarah's vitals, Ethan's phone vibrated with an incoming call. The screen showed his lawyer's name, Daniel Morgan. Excusing himself, Ethan stepped into the hallway. Dan, thanks for getting back to me so quickly. Ethan, what's this about needing legal advice in Vermont? The admin team is in chaos without you here. Ethan briefly explained the situation, from finding Sarah to Michael's attempts to paint his sister as mentally unstable. So you're telling me you've indefinitely postponed the Westridge merger to play detective in some small town? Daniel sounded incredulous. Ethan, you have responsibilities to your company, your employees, your shareholders. I'm aware of my responsibilities, Ethan cut him off. But I'm already involved in this, Dan. I need your help, not a lecture. Can you come up here? I need someone I trust to look into the legal situation. This Michael character is well connected locally, and I'm concerned about how that might influence things. There was a pause, then a sigh. I'll clear my schedule. I can be there by tonight. Send me the details of this inn you're staying at. Thank. Oh, Dan, one more thing. Can you bring Sam Foster with you? Your security consultant, what do you need him for? I want someone looking into Michael Wilson's background, his finances, his connections. Sam's the best at that kind of discreet investigation. This is getting more elaborate by the minute, Ethan, Daniel warned. Just get here, both of you. I'll explain everything then. As Ethan ended the call, he turned to find Sheriff Reynolds approaching, his expression grim. Mr. Blackwell, I was hoping to catch you here. We need to talk. They moved to a small waiting area at the end of the hall where Reynolds lowered his voice. Michael Wilson came to the station this morning with a psychiatric evaluation of Sarah dated 6 months ago. It describes paranoid tendencies and recommends inpatient treatment, which she apparently refused. He also brought a power of attorney document that Sarah signed, giving him authority to make decisions about her care and finances if she's deemed incapacitated. That can't be legitimate, Ethan protested. It's properly notarized, Reynolds replied, and he's brought in a doctor, Richard Stevens, some hotshot psychiatric consultant from Burlington who's done TV appearances. Stevens is holding a press conference this afternoon about the dangers of untreated mental illness in our community. Ethan's mind raced. Michael's orchestrating a public opinion campaign. Looks that way, and it's working. Half the town. Here's already buzzing about how poor Michael has been trying to help his disturbed sister for years. Reynolds rubbed his temple. I believe Sarah for what it's worth, but Michael's making this messy. What about the evidence? The duct tape? The condition we found her in? The tape didn't have usable prints, and Michael's narrative is that Sarah has done similar things during episodes before, that she might have bound herself, had a panic attack, and gotten trapped somehow. It's far-fetched, but it plants doubt, Ethan finished. What? About Tommy's testimony that his mother was missing for days, while Michael claimed she was just away. Kids get confused about time, Reynolds said, though he didn't sound convinced by his own words. Look, I'm pursuing this, but Michael's making it difficult. He's filed for emergency custody of Tommy, claiming Sarah is too unstable to care for him. Ethan felt his stomach drop. He can't do that. He can try. There's a hearing tomorrow. Family Services has been notified. They'll likely place Tommy in temporary foster care until it's resolved. No, Ethan said firmly. Tommy stays with me. Reynolds shook his head. That arrangement was temporary, Mr. Blackwell. You're not family. And you're not a certified foster parent. Once family services gets involved, they have protocols. I'm calling my lawyer. He'll be here tonight. A lawyer can't change the child protection laws. I'm sorry, but unless Sarah is discharged and cleared by a psychiatrist, or you somehow become Tommy's legal guardian, he'll be placed in the system by tomorrow afternoon. The sheriff stood. I should get back to the station. This circus is just getting started. After Reynolds left, Ethan returned to Sarah's room, finding Tommy reading aloud to his mother from a magazine. The scene of simple normalcy contrasted sharply with the growing complications outside this room. How could he tell them what was happening? They're taking me for those tests now, Sarah told Ethan as orderlies arrived with a wheelchair. Could you stay with Tommy? Of course, Ethan assured her. We'll be right here when you get back. As Sarah was wheeled away, Tommy turned to Ethan. Something's wrong, I can tell by your face. The directness startled Ethan. This kid was perceptive, just like his mother. Your uncle is making things complicated. He's telling people your mom is sick and he's trying to get custody of you. Tommy's face paled. I don't want to go with him. He hurt Mom. He'll hurt me too. I won't let that happen, Ethan promised, though he wasn't sure how he'd keep that promise. My lawyer is coming tonight. He'll help us figure this out. Why are you doing all this? Tommy asked suddenly. You don't even know us. The question caught Ethan off guard. Why was he doing this? Why had he postponed critical business deals, called in his top legal advisor, and essentially put his life on hold for strangers? The answer came with surprising clarity. When I was about your age, something bad happened in my family. Nobody listened to me either. I kept telling adults, but they all thought I was making things up or exaggerating. Ethan had never shared this with anyone outside his therapist's office. I promised myself that if I ever saw a kid who needed someone to believe them, I would be that someone. Tommy considered this solemnly. Did things get better? For you, I mean. Eventually, but it was a long road. Ethan checked his watch. Your mum will be in tests for a while. Want to get some lunch from the cafeteria? As they walked down the corridor, Ethan noticed a small worn teddy bear peeking from Tommy's backpack. Is that your bear? Tommy nodded. His name's Scout. Mom gave him to me when I was little. He pulled the bear out, showing its matted fur and one missing eye. I take him everywhere. He looks like a good friend, Ethan said, noticing how carefully Tommy handled the worn toy, adjusting something at the bear's seam before returning it to his backpack. They were halfway through lunch when Ethan's phone buzzed with a news alert. Opening it, he found himself looking at Michael Wilson's perfectly composed face on the local news station's website. Beside him stood a distinguished-looking man identified as Dr. Richard Stevens, psychiatric consultant. The headline made Ethan's blood run cold. Local businessman speaks out about sister's mental health crisis. The system failed her. By the time they returned to Sarah's room, she was back from her tests, looking exhausted. A nurse was adjusting her IV but stopped when she saw them enter. Her expression changed subtly, a flicker of something like doubt or suspicion as she looked at Sarah. Your medication is due in an hour, the nurse said curtly before leaving. Sarah noticed it too. Her eyes followed the nurse, then turned to Ethan. It's starting, isn't it, Michael's campaign? Ethan nodded grimly. He held a press conference. He's painting himself as the concerned brother of a mentally ill woman. Sarah closed her eyes, tears seeping from beneath her lids, and people are believing him. Not everyone, Ethan assured her, though he wasn't certain. Small towns had long memories and quick judgments. If Michael had been planting seeds of doubt about Sarah's stability for months, his narrative would find fertile ground. As if confirming his fears, there was a knock at the door. A woman in a crisp suit entered, her expression professionally neutral. Miss Wilson, I'm Diane Mercer from Vermont Family Services. I need to speak with you and your son regarding his temporary placement during your recovery. Tommy's hand found Ethan's again, gripping it with terrified strength. Sarah straightened in her bed, her face setting in determined lines despite her obvious pain. My son is perfectly well cared for, she said firmly. Mr. Blackwell has been looking after him. Ms. Mercer consulted her clipboard. Yes, I understand. There was an informal arrangement. However, given the concerns raised about your health and the pending custody hearing, we'll need to place Tommy with a certified foster family until matters are resolved. No, Tommy cried. I want to stay with Mr. Blackwell. I'm sorry, but that's not possible without proper certification and background checks, Ms. Mercer said, her tone softening slightly. Tommy, you'll be placed with a nice family, right? Here in Pinewood Springs. You'll be able to visit your mother and continue attending your school. Sarah reached for her son, pulling him close despite her injuries. This is Michael's doing, isn't it? He's using the system against us. Miss Mercer's professional mask slipped momentarily. Miss Wilson, I'm just following protocol based on the situation presented to my department. The placement is temporary, pending the court's decision. When? Ethan asked. When do you intend to take him? Tomorrow morning. I'll come to the inn at 9 a.m. Ms. Mercer handed Ethan a card. Please have his essential belongings packed. The foster family lives on Maple Street, so he'll still be nearby. After she left, the room fell silent except for Tommy's quiet sniffling against his mother's shoulder. Sarah met Ethan's eyes over her son's head, her gaze a mixture of gratitude and desperation. We'll fight this, Ethan promised. My lawyer arrives tonight, this isn't over. But as the afternoon sun slanted through the blinds, casting prison bar shadows across the hospital bed, Ethan couldn't shake the feeling that Michael Wilson was several moves ahead in this high-stakes game, and that tomorrow they might lose the most important piece on their board. The Pinewood Springs Inn's restaurant had emptied hours ago, but Ethan, Daniel Morgan, and Sam Foster remained huddled at a corner table, surrounded by coffee, cups, and scattered papers. Tommy had finally fallen asleep in the adjoining room after hours of anxiety about the morning's impending separation. So, let me get this straight, Daniel said, rubbing his temples. You want to challenge an emergency custody order, discredit a psychiatric evaluation, and prove that a prominent local businessman tried to eliminate his sister over an inheritance dispute, all by tomorrow morning. Ethan nodded grimly. That about sums it up. Sam Foster, a compact man with observant eyes and a military short haircut, tapped his tablet. I've started digging into Michael Wilson's financials. There are some interesting patterns. Large withdrawals followed by cash deposits a few days later, usually smaller amounts, classic signs of gambling. Can we prove he has debts? Ethan asked. Not overnight, Sam replied, but I found something else. This Dr. Stevens, the psychiatric consultant, he and Wilson have history. Stevens was an expert witness in 3 insurance fraud cases where Wilson's auto dealership was implicated. Always testified in Wilson's favor. Those cases were settled quietly. Daniel whistled softly. So he's a hired gun. That helps, but it's not enough. We need something concrete linking Michael to the assault on Sarah. What about the psychiatric evaluation? Ethan asked. Can we challenge that? I'd need to see Sarah's actual medical records, which would require her consent and a court order. Again, not happening by morning. Daniel sorted through his notes. Our best immediate strategy is to challenge the temporary placement order for Tommy. We argue that removing him from his current stable environment would cause additional trauma. That still leaves him vulnerable once the custody hearing happens, Ethan pointed out. One battle at a time, Ethan. If we can keep Tommy with you for now, it gives us more time to build a case against Michael. A soft sound drew their attention. Tommy stood in the doorway to the adjoining room, clutching his teddy bear, his face pale in the dimmed restaurant lighting. You're talking about me, he said. It wasn't a question. Ethan stood. We're trying to figure out how to help you and your mom, buddy. You should be sleeping. I can't sleep. I keep seeing Uncle Mike hurting Mom. Tommy approached their table, the bear dangling from one hand. Are they really going to take me away tomorrow? Daniel smiled gently at the boy. We're doing everything we can to prevent that, Tommy. Tommy climbed onto the chair next to Ethan. Mom says I should always tell the truth even when it's scary. I saw Uncle Mike that day. He was at our house when I got home from school. Mom wasn't there, but her car was. He told me she went on a trip, but her suitcase was still in her closet. I knew he was lying. Sam leaned forward. Did you tell the sheriff this, Tommy? The boy nodded. He said kids sometimes get confused about when things happen. But I'm not confused, it was Tuesday. We had a math test and I got an A. That places Michael with Sarah on the day she disappeared, Daniel noted. It contradicts his statement that he was at a convention in Burlington. He'll just say he stopped by before leaving town, Sam pointed out. We need more than Tommy's word against his uncle's. Tommy clutched his bear tighter. Scout knows Uncle Mike is bad. Mom says Scout keeps me safe. Ethan noticed again how protectively Tommy handled the worn teddy bear, particularly around its middle where the seam looked clumsily repaired. Something about the boy's attachment to the toy and the way he kept adjusting that particular spot triggered Ethan's curiosity. Tommy, can I see Scout for a minute? The boy hesitated, then carefully handed over the bear. Ethan examined it, noting the mismatched thread where someone had restitched a tear along the bear's back. The stitching was irregular, as if done in haste. Did your mom fix Scout recently? Ethan asked, running his finger along the rough seam. Tommy shook his head. I did, after Uncle Mike threw him. Mike threw your bear? Daniel asked, exchanging glances with Ethan. He got mad when he was looking for Mom's papers. He said Scout was watching him. He threw him against the wall, and Scout's back ripped open. I fixed him later, after Uncle Mike left. A hunch formed in Ethan's mind. Tommy, would it be okay if I looked inside Scout? I promise I'll be careful, and we can stitch him up again properly. Tommy's eyes widened with alarm. You want to cut Scout open? Just along this seam where he's already been repaired, I think. Maybe. Ethan paused, not wanting to get the boy's hopes up. I just want to check something. After a moment's hesitation, Tommy nodded. Okay, but be careful, Scout's old. Ethan took a small pocket knife from his keychain and gently worked it under the loose stitching, careful not to damage the worn fabric. As the seam separated, he felt something solid inside, beyond the usual stuffing. Carefully, he reached into the opening. His fingers closed around something small and rectangular, wrapped in what felt like plastic. Ethan drew it out slowly, a USB drive sealed in a sandwich bag. Tommy gasped. Mom's secret thing. I forgot she put that in Scout. The three men stared at the USB drive. When did your mom put this in your bear, Tommy? Sam asked quietly. After Uncle Mike started being mean, she said if anything ever happened to her, Scout would keep her safe too. I forgot all about it until now. Tommy's eyes filled with tears. I could have helped Mom sooner if I remembered. Ethan put his arm around the boy's shoulders. You've helped her now, Tommy, that's what matters. Daniel was already retrieving his laptop. Let's see what's on it. As the computer booted up, Sam cautioned, we need to be careful about chain of custody here. If there's evidence on that driver, we need to document exactly how we found it and ensure it hasn't been tampered with. Daniel nodded, pulling out his phone. I'm recording this. State your names and the time and place where this potential evidence was recovered. After they'd all stated their names, and Daniel had documented the discovery of the USB drive, he carefully inserted it into his laptop. A single audio file appeared on the screen. It's dated 3 months ago, Daniel noted, clicking to play. The sound quality wasn't great, but the voices were clearly distinguishable. Sarah Wilson's voice came first. I've already told you, Michael. I'm not signing over Mum's house to you. She left it to me and Tommy, a male voice responded. Unmistakably the same smooth tone they'd heard from Michael Wilson at the hospital. You're not thinking clearly, Sarah. You never have. The house is wasted on you. I have investors interested in that property. Do. You know how valuable that lakefront location is? It's not for sale. Mom wanted Tommy to grow up in that house just like we did. Mom was sentimental and short-sighted. I have debts, Sarah. Serious debts to people you don't want to meet. Your gambling problems are not my responsibility. The sound of something slamming, a fist on a table perhaps. Michael's voice grew colder. You think you're so perfect, don't you? The golden child who could do no wrong. You have no idea what it's like to have people breathing down your neck for money. Maybe you should stop gambling then. I need that property, Sarah. One way or another, I'm going to get it. Are you threatening me? I'm telling you how things are going to be. Either you sign those papers willingly, or I'll have you declared incompetent. I've already talked to a psychiatrist who owes me a favor. One signature from him and you lose everything. The house, your savings, even custody of Tommy." Sarah's voice sharpened with anger. "No one would believe that. I'm a respected teacher in this community." Michael laughed, a chilling sound. "You'd be surprised what people will believe when it's presented by the right expert. Remember, cousin, Elaine's nervous breakdown? That was just a divorce and some sleeping pills, but everyone in town still whispers about her condition. Imagine what they'll think when Dr. Stevens explains your paranoid delusions about your own brother. Get out of my house now. Think about it, Sarah. Think about what's best for Tommy. You don't want him to see his mother fall apart, do you? Sign the papers or watch your life crumble. Your choice." The recording ended with the sound of a door slamming. The four of them sat in stunned silence. "That's Uncle Mike," Tommy whispered. "That's how he sounds when he's mad." Daniel was the first to recover. This recording establishes motive and shows a pattern of threats. It's not direct evidence that he assaulted her, but it dramatically strengthens Sarah's case. Sam was already typing notes on his tablet. "We need to get this authenticated immediately. I know a forensic audio specialist who can verify it hasn't been altered." "Will it be enough to keep Tommy with me tomorrow?" Ethan asked. Daniel considered this. "Possibly. It certainly raises serious questions about Michael's fitness as a guardian. But we need to be careful. This recording might not be admissible in court depending on Vermont's wiretapping laws." "Mom has a recording app on her phone," Tommy said. "She uses it to practice her lessons sometimes. That might help establish that she routinely recorded in her home," Daniel noted. "But let's not get ahead of ourselves. First thing tomorrow morning, I'll file an emergency motion to postpone the placement hearing based on newly discovered evidence. That should buy us some time." Ethan looked at Tommy, who was stifling a yawn. "Time for bed, buddy. We've got a big day tomorrow." After tucking Tommy in and ensuring he was finally asleep, Ethan returned to find Sam making copies of the audio file. "I'm sending one to my contact for authentication," he explained, "and creating backups. If this recording is as damning as it sounds, Michael Wilson might go to extreme lengths to destroy it." "I'll stay here tonight," Daniel said. "We should take shifts watching the rooms. If Michael somehow finds out we have this..." Ethan nodded grimly. "I don't think he'd risk breaking in, but we shouldn't take chances." Sam finished his work and closed the laptop. "I've also been looking into Dr. Stevens. His credentials are legitimate, but his ethics are questionable at best. He's been reprimanded twice by the state psychiatric board for conclusions unsupported by clinical evidence. Both cases involved custody disputes." "So he's basically a professional opinion for hire," Ethan said. "Exactly, and I found something else interesting. Stevens was an expert witness in a case 5 years ago where Michael Wilson's dealership was accused of rolling back odometers. The case was dismissed based partly on Stevens' testimony that the plaintiff had perception issues." Daniel whistled. "So they have history. That could help discredit his evaluation of Sarah." As they continued strategizing into the night, Ethan found himself reflecting on how quickly his life had changed. 4 days ago, his biggest concern had been the Westridge merger. Now he was fighting for the safety of a woman and child he barely knew. Yet somehow, it felt more important than any business deal he'd ever made. At some point during their planning, Ethan stepped into Tommy's room to check on him. The boy was finally sleeping soundly, Scout clutched tightly to his chest. In the dim light filtering through the curtains, Tommy looked impossibly small and vulnerable. Ethan felt a surge of protectiveness that surprised him with its intensity. "I won't let them take you," he whispered, though Tommy couldn't hear him. It wasn't just a promise to the boy anymore, it was a promise to himself. When Ethan returned to the main room, Sam was on his phone, speaking quietly but urgently. As he hung up, he looked at Ethan with renewed determination. "That was a contact at the Burlington PD. Michael Wilson's alibi for the convention is falling apart. Several people who were supposed to have seen him there don't recall him being present on the first day, the day Sarah disappeared." Daniel smiled for the first time since arriving. "We're building momentum. Now we just need to make it to morning without any surprises." But as the first light of dawn began to filter through the inn's windows, none of them could have predicted the lengths to which Michael Wilson would go to protect his secret, or the impact that a child's determination and a billionaire's resources would have on the battle to come. The Pinewood Springs family court was housed in a red brick colonial building that had once been the town library. Its austere facade seemed to emphasize the seriousness of the proceedings inside. Ethan, Tommy, Daniel, and Sam sat on one side of the small courtroom, while Michael Wilson and his attorney, a sharp-featured woman in an expensive suit, occupied the other. The room was uncomfortably warm, filled with the murmurs of courthouse staff and the occasional squeak of the ancient ceiling fans. Judge Eleanor Benson, a stern-faced woman in her 60s, studied the emergency motion Daniel had filed that morning. "Mr. Morgan, you're requesting a postponement of the custody hearing and the temporary placement order for Tommy Wilson based on newly discovered evidence." She peered over her reading glasses at Daniel. "Evidence you've declined to describe in your filing." "Yes, Your Honor," Daniel replied, standing. "We believe this evidence significantly impacts the custody determination and requires thorough authentication before being formally submitted to the court." Michael's attorney rose. "Your Honor, this is clearly a delay tactic. Mr. Wilson has already arranged an appropriate foster placement for his nephew while these matters are sorted out. Ms. Wilson's mental health concerns require immediate attention to ensure the child's welfare." Judge Benson turned back to Daniel. "Mr. Morgan, without knowing the nature of this evidence, I'm inclined to proceed with the temporary placement as scheduled." Daniel hesitated, then nodded slightly. "Your Honor, if I may approach the bench." After a moment's consideration, Judge Benson nodded. "Counsel for both parties, approach." As the attorneys conferred quietly with the judge, Ethan leaned down to Tommy, who was clutching Scout tightly. "It's going to be okay," he whispered, though he wasn't entirely confident. After several minutes of hushed conversation, the attorneys returned to their tables. Judge Benson cleared her throat. "In light of the serious nature of the evidence described by Mr. Morgan, I'm postponing the custody determination for 72 hours to allow for proper authentication and review. However," she added, raising her hand as Daniel began to look relieved, "I must consider the immediate welfare of the minor child." She turned her attention to Tommy, her stern expression softening slightly. "Young man, I understand you've been staying with Mr. Blackwell at the local inn?" Tommy nodded, pressing closer to Ethan's side. "While I appreciate Mr. Blackwell's assistance during this difficult time, a hotel is not an appropriate long-term environment for a child. Therefore, I'm ordering that Tommy be placed at the Pinewood Children's Center until the hearing." "Your Honor," Daniel interjected, "the Children's Center is unnecessary. Mr. Blackwell has the resources to provide proper care for Tommy during this brief period." "Mr. Morgan, Mr. Blackwell has no legal standing in this matter. He is neither a relative nor a certified foster parent." Judge Benson's tone was final. "The Pinewood Children's Center is a licensed facility with trained staff who can provide appropriate supervision and support for Tommy during this difficult transition." Michael Wilson's face remained impassive, but Ethan caught the slight twitch of satisfaction at the corner of his mouth. "Tommy will be transported to the center immediately following these proceedings," the judge continued. "Both Mr. Wilson and Mr. Blackwell may visit during regular visiting hours with supervision. The full hearing will take place Monday morning at 9 a.m. Court is adjourned." As the gavel came down, Tommy's grip on Ethan's hand tightened painfully. "Don't let them take me," he whispered, his eyes wide with fear. Ethan knelt to meet Tommy's gaze. "It's just for 3 days, buddy. I'll visit every day, I promise. And on Monday, we'll have everything we need to make sure you can go back to..." "Your mom?" Ms. Mercer from Family Services approached, her expression sympathetic but firm. "It's time to go, Tommy. The center is a nice place. They have a game room and a library. You'll be comfortable there." Tommy looked from Ethan to Ms. Mercer, then back again, his lower lip trembling. With a sudden movement, he thrust Scout into Ethan's hands. "Keep him safe," he said, his voice breaking. "Don't let Uncle Mike get him." Ethan nodded, understanding the trust being placed in him. Scout contained their most valuable evidence, and Tommy was making sure it stayed protected. I'll guard him with my life, he promised, tucking the bear carefully into his briefcase. Ms. Mercer led Tommy away. The boy looked back once, his small face set in a brave attempt not to cry. Ethan felt something twist painfully in his chest. Daniel placed a hand on his shoulder. We've got 72 hours. Let's make them count. Outside the courthouse, they found Sam talking urgently on his phone. As they approached, he ended the call and turned to them, his expression serious. That was my contact at the forensic audio lab. He's preliminarily authenticated the recording. No signs of editing or manipulation. The audio appears to have been recorded in a single session on a smartphone. He's preparing a formal report, but it'll take until tomorrow. Good, Daniel nodded. What about Michael's gambling debts? That's more complicated. I've confirmed he's a regular at the River Casino in Burlington, but their records are private. However, Sam lowered his voice, I found something else. Michael took out a second mortgage on his dealership 6 months ago. Then 3 months ago, around the time of that recorded conversation with Sarah, he took out a personal loan against his life insurance policy. He's desperate for cash, Ethan concluded. And getting more desperate by the day, Sam agreed. I've been tracking his movements. After court, he went straight to Pinewood General to visit Sarah. Ethan's head snapped up. Is she all right? The nurses wouldn't let him in her room. Apparently, Dr. Chen left strict instructions about limiting visitors after Sarah had a panic attack yesterday when she saw Michael on the local news. Daniel checked his watch. Visiting hours at the hospital start in 30 minutes. We should go see Sarah, update her on what's happening with Tommy and the case. They found Sarah sitting up in her hospital bed, looking markedly better than she had 2 days ago. The bruising on her face had faded to yellowish green, and she'd regained some color. She was speaking with a young woman in scrubs, who was checking her vital signs. The doctor says I might be discharged tomorrow if my blood work comes back normal, Sarah was saying. She looked up as they entered, her expression brightening, then immediately falling. Where's Tommy? Ethan exchanged glances with Daniel before explaining the judge's decision about the children's center. Sarah's face crumpled. He must be so scared. That place is for kids with nowhere else to go. It's just for the weekend, Daniel assured her. We've bought ourselves time to authenticate the evidence. Sarah's eyes widened. What evidence? Ethan carefully explained their discovery of the USB drive in Scout. Tommy remembered you put it there. The recording clearly shows Michael threatening you over the property. Sarah closed her eyes briefly. I'd forgotten about that. After he threatened me, I started recording our conversations, just in case. She opened her eyes, looking at the young nurse who was still in the room, now replacing her IV bag. I'm sorry, Emily, this must sound crazy to you. The nurse, Emily, hesitated, then spoke quietly. Actually, Ms. Wilson, I saw something that day, the day you disappeared. All three men turned to look at her. Emily continued, her voice low but steady. I was working at the outpatient clinic. I saw you and your brother arguing in the hallway near the pharmacy. He was trying to get you to sign some papers, and you were refusing. He grabbed your arm, hard enough that I was about to intervene. Then he said something that made you go pale, and you both went into a private consultation room. Sarah nodded slowly. He told me Tommy had fallen at school and was in the emergency room. But when we got to the consultation room, he admitted it was a lie. He just wanted me somewhere private to discuss the property again. I left after that, told him I'd never sign. That's the last thing I clearly remember until the container. Emily, would you be willing to make a formal statement about what you saw? Daniel asked. The nurse nodded. I've been feeling terrible about not saying something sooner. When I saw the news about Ms. Wilson being found in that container, I couldn't believe it. But I was afraid to come forward. Mr. Wilson is influential in this town. Your testimony could be crucial, Sam said. It places Michael with Sarah at the medical center on the day she disappeared, contradicting his alibi about being at the convention. After taking Emily's contact information, they discussed next steps with Sarah. As they were preparing to leave, Dr. Chen entered the room. Good news, Sarah. Your latest test results look promising. Barring any complications, I think we can Discharge you tomorrow afternoon." Sarah's face lit up. "Really? That's wonderful. Then I can get Tommy from the center." Dr. Chen's expression grew serious. "About that, your brother has requested a psychiatric evaluation before your release. He's claiming your injuries and statements about being attacked are manifestations of a psychotic episode." "That's absurd," Ethan protested. "I agree," Dr. Chen said firmly. "I've seen no indications of psychiatric issues beyond the expected trauma response. However, hospital policy requires we consider next-of-kin requests, especially with the power of attorney Michael presented." Daniel stepped forward. "That power of attorney may have been obtained under duress. We're challenging its validity." "I understand, but in the meantime, Dr. Stevens has requested permission to evaluate Sarah tomorrow morning." Sarah's face paled. "Stevens, he's Michael's friend. He'll say whatever Michael wants him to." "I can't legally refuse him access without a court order," Dr. Chen explained apologetically. "But I can insist on being present during any evaluation, and I can provide my own independent assessment afterward." As they left the hospital, the weight of what they were facing settled heavily on Ethan's shoulders. Michael was attacking on multiple fronts, keeping Tommy isolated, attempting to have Sarah declared mentally unfit, and using his connections to control the narrative. "We need to visit Tommy," Ethan said as they walked to the parking lot. "The Children's Center visiting hours end at 7. The Pinewood Children's Center was a converted Victorian mansion on the outskirts of town, its once elegant architecture now institutional, with security cameras and a chain-link fence surrounding the property. Inside, the high ceilings and ornate moldings contrasted with the functional furniture and antiseptic smell. A tired-looking social worker led them to a common room where several children were watching television or playing board games. Tommy sat alone by a window, staring out at the fading daylight. When he saw Ethan, he ran across the room and threw himself into his arms. "You came," he said, his voice muffled against Ethan's shirt. "Of course I did, buddy. I promised, didn't I?" They settled at a small table in the corner, away from the other children and the watchful eyes of the staff. Tommy looked smaller somehow, diminished by his surroundings. "I don't like it here," he confided in a whisper. "The other kids are okay, but it smells funny, and my room has bars on the windows." Ethan felt a surge of anger at the thought of Tommy, who had done nothing wrong, being essentially imprisoned. "It's just for a few days, Tommy. Your mom might be coming home from the hospital tomorrow." Tommy's face brightened. "Really? Can I go home with her then?" Daniel, who had been talking with the social worker, joined them. "We're working on that, Tommy. There's going to be another hearing on Monday to decide." "What about Scout? Is he safe?" "Very safe," Ethan assured him, explaining that Sam had taken the bear to a secure location where the USB drive was being authenticated. "The recording is going to help your mom a lot." As visiting hours drew to a close, Tommy grew increasingly anxious. "Can't you stay?" he pleaded, "or take me with you, please?" "I wish I could, buddy," Ethan said, his heart breaking at the fear in Tommy's eyes. "But I'll be back first thing tomorrow, I promise." As they were saying goodbye, Ethan noticed a security guard eyeing them from the doorway. Something about the man's intense scrutiny made him uneasy. Outside in the parking lot, Ethan mentioned it to Sam, who nodded grimly. "I noticed him too, let me make a call." While Sam stepped away to use his phone, Daniel updated Ethan on his conversation with the social worker. She says, "Tommy's been withdrawn since arriving, barely eating. She's concerned but not surprised, given the circumstances." Sam rejoined them, his expression serious. "That guard is new, started just 2 days ago. His background check was rushed through the system." "Michael," Ethan said, the pieces clicking into place. "He's placed someone inside the center to watch Tommy." "Or worse," Sam agreed. "I've arranged for a security detail to monitor the center tonight, just in case. And I'm running a deep background check on the guard." That night, back at the inn, they reviewed everything they'd gathered so far. The authenticated recording, Emily's eyewitness account of seeing Michael with Sarah at the medical center, the mounting evidence of Michael's financial troubles, and the questionable relationship between Michael and Dr. Stevens. "It's a strong case," Daniel concluded, But Michael's already shown he's willing to use every resource at his disposal. We need to be prepared for his next move. As if on cue, Ethan's phone rang. The caller ID showed the Pinewood Children's Center. His heart racing, Ethan answered. Mr. Blackwell, this is Linda Matthews, night supervisor at the center. The woman's voice was tense. There's been an incident. A man attempted to enter the facility about 20 minutes ago. When questioned by security, he fled. One of our staff recognized him as Michael Wilson. Ethan's blood ran cold. Is Tommy all right? He's fine. He was asleep and doesn't know. It's about the incident, but I thought you should be aware, especially since Tommy has been asking for you. After thanking her and ending the call, Ethan relayed the information to the others. Sam immediately called his security contact, confirming that they had observed someone matching Michael's description, attempting to access a side entrance of the center before being confronted and fleeing in a black SUV. This changes things, Daniel said, already reaching for his laptop. I'm drafting an emergency motion for tomorrow morning. Michael just demonstrated he's willing to violate court orders to access Tommy. We can use this to challenge his fitness as a guardian, and to request Tommy's immediate release to Sarah once she's discharged, Ethan added. Assuming Stevens doesn't succeed in having her committed, Sam pointed out grimly, we need to prepare for that possibility too. Ethan stared out the window at the darkened town square, the same spot where he'd first encountered Tommy just 4 days ago. So much had changed since then. He'd postponed millions in business deals, called in his top legal and security experts, and found himself deeply invested in the welfare of a woman and child he barely knew. Yet despite the complexity and danger of the situation, Ethan felt more alive, more purposeful than he had in years. In the sterile boardrooms and luxury penthouses of his usual life, he'd lost something essential, the simple human connection that came from fighting for someone who needed help. As they worked late into the night, preparing for the battles to come, Ethan made a silent vow. Whatever it took, whatever resources he needed to deploy, he would see this through. Sarah and Tommy Wilson would get justice, and Michael would face consequences for his actions. What none of them realized was that Michael Wilson had one more desperate move to play, one that would raise the stakes to a dangerous new level and test the limits of Ethan's commitment to a family that was quickly becoming important to him in ways he'd never anticipated. The weekend passed in a blur of legal preparations and strategic planning. Sarah was discharged from the hospital Sunday afternoon, though Dr. Chen insisted she continue to rest and recover at a location unknown to Michael. Ethan had arranged for her to stay in a suite at a luxury resort 20 miles outside Pinewood Springs, with a private nurse and security personnel stationed discreetly nearby. It feels strange, Sarah confessed, as Ethan helped her settle into the suite. All this protection, the legal team, the private security, it's like something from a movie, not my life. I know it's overwhelming, Ethan replied, adjusting her pillows as she reclined on the sofa. But after Michael's attempt to access the children's center, we can't take any chances. Sarah's eyes filled with worry. How was Tommy when you visited him today? Better than yesterday. Knowing you're out of the hospital has lifted his spirits, and the center increased security after Friday night's incident. Ethan sat in an armchair across from her. The hearing is tomorrow morning. Daniel believes we have a strong case for reuniting you with Tommy immediately. And then what? Sarah asked quietly. Even if the judge rules in our favor tomorrow, Michael isn't going to simply give up. He spent months building this narrative about my supposed mental illness. Half the town probably believes it by now. Then we'll change their minds, Ethan said firmly. The truth has a way of emerging, especially when it has help. Sarah studied him, her blue eyes searching. Why are you doing all this, Ethan? You've put your life on hold, spent who knows how much money, and risked your reputation for us. We're strangers to you. The question caught him off guard, though it wasn't the first time he'd been asked. Tommy had posed a similar query days earlier. But this time, Ethan found himself giving a more complete answer. When I was 8, my father became violent. Not all the time, but when he drank. My mother made excuses, covered for him. I tried telling teachers, neighbors, even called the police once. No one believed me. The son of wealthy, respected parents must be exaggerating, seeking attention. He paused, the memory still painful decades later. One night, it got bad enough that my mother ended up in the hospital. She told everyone she fell down the stairs. I knew better, but by then I'd learned that my word counted for nothing against adult denials. Sarah reached out, touching his hand gently. "I'm so sorry, Ethan. I promised myself that if I ever encountered a child who needed to be believed, I would listen, but it's more than that now." Ethan met her gaze directly. "You and Tommy, you've reminded me what matters. In my world of mergers and acquisitions, it's easy to forget that real people with real lives are affected by decisions made in boardrooms. You've given me something I've been missing." A comfortable silence settled between them. For a moment, they were just two people connecting through shared understanding, the legal battles temporarily forgotten. The moment was interrupted by Ethan's phone. Daniel's name flashed on the screen. "I need to meet you," Daniel said without preamble. "Alone. There's been a development." "Is something wrong with the case?" Ethan asked, immediately alert. "Not on the phone. Meet me at Riverside Restaurant in 30 minutes. Daniel ended the call abruptly. Ethan frowned at the phone. Daniel wasn't typically cryptic or dramatic. Something significant must have happened. "I need to step out for a bit," he told Sarah. "The security team will be just outside if you need anything." Riverside Restaurant was a rustic establishment on the outskirts of town, known for its privacy and discretion. The dinner crowd hadn't arrived yet, leaving the place nearly empty when Ethan walked in. He spotted Daniel at a corner table, nursing what looked like whiskey, unusual for the typically temperate attorney. "What's happening?" Ethan asked as he slid into the booth. Daniel glanced around before speaking, his voice low. "I was approached today. Not directly, but through an intermediary." "Approached about what?" "A proposal." Daniel's face was grim. "A very lucrative proposal to misplace the USB drive containing Sarah's recording." Ethan felt a cold anger spreading through him. "Michael tried to bribe you?" "Not Michael himself. He's too smart for that. It was a business associate of his, someone with connections to both of us. The offer was substantial, a 7-figure sum deposited in an offshore account, plus a partnership offer at a prestigious law firm in Boston. All I had to do was ensure the recording never made it to court." "Tell me you recorded this conversation," Ethan said. Daniel shook his head. "It was too carefully orchestrated. The meeting itself appeared coincidental, running into an old acquaintance at a coffee shop. The actual offer was made in hypothetical terms, nothing explicitly incriminating." Ethan studied his friend's face. "Was there a moment? Did you consider it?" "Not for the money," Daniel replied. "Honestly, but for a split second I thought about the threat behind it. If they're willing to bribe an attorney, what else might they do? These aren't just small-town schemers, Ethan. Michael has connections, gambling debts to people who don't resolve conflicts in courtrooms. All the more reason to shut this down decisively tomorrow." Daniel nodded, finishing his drink. "I've taken precautions. Made copies of all evidence, stored in multiple secure locations. If anything happens to the originals, we have backups. And Sam's security team is monitoring both Sarah's suite and the children's center," Ethan added. "We're covered. I hope." "So?" Daniel checked his watch. "I need to finish preparing for tomorrow's hearing. The forensic report on the audio recording arrived this afternoon. It confirms the file's authenticity and places the recording in Sarah's home based on acoustic analysis." As they stood to leave, a man entered the restaurant, pausing when he spotted them. Ethan recognized him immediately. Dr. Richard Stevens, the psychiatric consultant working with Michael. The doctor gave them a cold smile before continuing to a table across the room. "Not a coincidence," Daniel muttered. "He's sending a message. They know we're here." Outside in the parking lot, Daniel gripped Ethan's arm. "Be careful tonight. This feels like the desperation move of someone who's running out of options. Back at Sarah's suite, Ethan found her asleep, a book fallen open beside her. The private nurse reported that she'd taken her medication and needed rest. Ethan settled in an adjoining room with his laptop, reviewing Daniel's preparations for the morning hearing. His phone vibrated with a text from Sam. Security detail reports all quiet at Children's Center. Tommy safe. Will monitor throughout night. The reassurance allowed Ethan to focus on the case documents, making notes and suggestions where appropriate. Around midnight, he stepped onto the suite's balcony for some fresh air. The mountain landscape spread out before him, the small lights of Pinewood Springs twinkling in the valley below. Somewhere in that collection of lights was Tommy, hopefully sleeping peacefully despite his unfamiliar surroundings. A soft sound from behind made Ethan turn. Sarah stood in the doorway, wrapped in a hotel robe, her golden hair loose around her shoulders. "Couldn't sleep?" he asked. She shook her head, joining him at the balcony railing. "Too much on my mind. Tomorrow changes everything, one way or another." "We're going to win," Ethan assured her. "The evidence is overwhelming." "It's not just the hearing I'm thinking about." Sarah gazed out at the distant town. "It's afterward. Michael has poisoned so many people against me. Even if the judge rules in my favor, there will be whispers, doubts. Tommy will have to face that too." "People come around when they see the truth," Ethan said, though he knew small towns could nurse grudges and gossip for generations. "Maybe. Or maybe it's time for a fresh start somewhere else." Sarah turned to face him. "I've been teaching. For 10 years, I could teach anywhere." "You'd leave Pinewood Springs, your mother's house?" "The house is just a building. What matters is Tommy feeling safe, having a normal childhood without everyone looking at him as that poor Wilson boy with the troubled mother." She paused. "I've been thinking about Boston, actually." The implication hung in the air between them. Ethan felt a flutter of something unfamiliar. Hope, possibility, a future he hadn't considered until this moment. "Boston has excellent schools," he said carefully. "And I know some good real estate agents who could help you find the perfect place." Sarah smiled, the first genuine smile he'd seen from her. "Is that an offer of assistance, Mr. Blackwell?" "It's whatever you need it to be," he replied honestly. The moment was interrupted by Ethan's phone ringing sharply in the quiet night. Sam's number flashed on the screen. "Ethan, we have a problem," Sam said without preamble. "Someone left a package at the inn for you. Security scanned it. It's clean, but you need to see this." "What is it?" "It's Tommy's bear, Scout, or what's left of him. He's been torn apart. There's a note. Evidence can disappear. So can children." Ethan's blood ran cold. "Is Tommy safe?" "My team at the center confirms he's in his room sleeping. I've doubled the security and alerted the local police to increase patrols in the area." "I'm on my way back," Ethan said, already moving inside to gather his things. "No, stay with Sarah. This is clearly an intimidation tactic. They're trying to separate us, make us vulnerable. I've got the bear and note secured as evidence. We'll present it to the judge tomorrow, as further proof of Michael's tactics." After ending the call, Ethan explained the situation to Sarah, whose face went pale with fear. "He's threatening my son," she whispered. "We need to get Tommy now." "That's exactly what they want, to provoke us into action that could be portrayed as unstable or illegal." Ethan took her hands in his. "Tommy is safe. Sam's team is watching him. The center has been alerted to prevent Michael from getting anywhere near him. In less than 12 hours, the hearing will begin. And all of this, evidence will show exactly what kind of man your brother is." Sarah's eyes filled with tears of frustration and fear. "I hate feeling this helpless. Tommy must be so scared." "He's stronger than you know," Ethan assured her. "He spent a night guarding that container, refusing to leave even when everyone dismissed him. He protected that USB drive without even knowing what was on it. Your son is a remarkable kid, Sarah." She nodded, wiping away tears. "He is. And you're right, we need to be smart now, not reactive." They spent the remainder of the night reviewing their strategy for the hearing. Daniel arrived at dawn with the torn bear in an evidence bag. Seeing Scout's mangled form, stuffing spilling from crude cuts, the head nearly severed, brought tears to Sarah's eyes. "Tommy loves that bear," she said softly. "It's been with him since he was a baby." "We'll get him a new one," Ethan promised. "A dozen new ones if he wants." "It won't be the same," Sarah replied. "Scout has history." Daniel cleared his throat. "The good news is that this intimidation attempt gives us more ammunition for the hearing. The bad news is that it shows how desperate Michael has become. A desperate man is dangerous." "Then let's end this," Ethan said firmly. "Today." The courthouse was already crowded when they arrived. Word of the custody battle had spread through Pinewood Springs, drawing curious onlookers and supporters for both sides. As they made their way inside, Ethan noticed the division among the spectators. Many avoided Sarah's gaze, while others nodded encouragingly or touched her arm in silent support. In the hallway outside the courtroom, they spotted Tommy sitting on a bench with Ms. Mercer from Family Services. The boy's face lit up when he saw them, and he broke away to run to his mother, who knelt to embrace him tightly. "Mom, you're really okay?" "Of course I am, sweetheart," Sarah said, holding him close. "And after today, we'll be together again. Properly." Tommy looked up at Ethan. "Did you keep Scout safe?" Ethan exchanged glances with Sarah before kneeling beside them. "Scout had a bit of an accident, buddy, but we'll get him fixed up good as new." Before Tommy could respond, the courtroom. Doors opened, and the bailiff announced that Judge Benson was ready to begin proceedings. As they filed inside, Ethan noticed Michael Wilson seated at the respondent's table, looking immaculate in an expensive suit, his expression calmly confident. Beside him sat his attorney and Dr. Stevens, both reviewing documents with serious expressions. Judge Benson called the court to order, her stern gaze sweeping the room. "Before we begin, I want to make something clear. This is a family court proceeding concerning the welfare of a minor child. It is not a spectacle or entertainment. Anyone disrupting these proceedings will be removed immediately." She turned, her attention to the attorneys. "Mr. Morgan, you're representing Sarah Wilson's interests in this matter." "Yes, Your Honor," Daniel replied, standing. "And we'd like to begin by presenting new evidence that has emerged since Friday's hearing." As Daniel outlined their case, the authenticated audio recording, Emily's eyewitness testimony, Michael's attempted intrusion at the children's center, and the threatening message delivered with the destroyed teddy bear, Ethan watched, the judge's expression grow increasingly grave. Michael's attorney objected repeatedly, arguing that the audio recording violated wiretapping laws and that the other incidents were circumstantial or misinterpreted. Dr. Stevens submitted his psychiatric evaluation of Sarah, claiming she exhibited classic signs of paranoid ideation and persecution complex. The morning stretched into afternoon as witnesses were called, evidence presented and arguments made. Tommy had been taken to a private room after his brief testimony, where he confirmed seeing his uncle at the house on the day his mother disappeared and identified Michael's voice on the recording. Finally, as the late afternoon sun slanted through the courtroom windows, Judge Benson called a brief recess to review all the evidence before making her decision. In the tense half-hour that followed, Ethan sat with Sarah in a side conference room, both too anxious to speak much. "Whatever happens," Sarah said finally, breaking the silence, "thank you for believing Tommy when no one else would, for everything you've done since." Ethan took her hand. "We're going to win this, Sarah. And afterward, whatever you decide about staying or leaving Pinewood Springs, I want you to know that you and Tommy have a friend in me. Always." The bailiff appeared at the door. Judge Benson is ready to deliver her ruling. Pratis. They returned to the courtroom. Ethan noticed that Michael looked less confident now, a sheen of sweat visible on his forehead, despite the room's cool temperature. Dr. Stevens was checking his phone nervously, while Michael's attorney shuffled papers with rapid, agitated movements. Judge Benson entered and called the court to order, her expression unreadable as she arranged her notes before her. "Having reviewed all evidence and testimony presented in this case, I am prepared to rule on the matters before this court." She looked directly at Sarah. "Miss Wilson, please rise." Sarah stood, her hands trembling slightly until Ethan reached over to steady her with a gentle touch. Ms. Wilson, this court finds no credible evidence of mental instability as alleged by the respondent. The psychiatric evaluation submitted by Dr. Stevens is rejected as both procedurally flawed and substantively biased, given the demonstrated relationship between Dr. Stevens and Michael Wilson. A murmur ran through the courtroom, quickly silenced by the judge's stern glance. Furthermore, the authenticated audio recording provides compelling evidence of Mr. Wilson's attempt to coerce Ms. Wilson into signing over her inherited property, including explicit threats to have her declared incompetent if she refused. This, combined with eyewitness testimony placing Mr. Wilson with Ms. Wilson on the day of her disappearance, contradicting his sworn alibi, raises serious concerns about his credibility and actions. Michael's face had gone pale, his attorney whispering urgently in his ear. Therefore, I am ordering the immediate reunion of Tommy Wilson with his mother, Sarah Wilson, who is confirmed to have full and sole custody. The temporary guardianship claimed by Michael Wilson is hereby revoked. Sarah sagged with relief, tears streaming down her face. Ethan squeezed her hand in silent celebration, but Judge Benson wasn't finished. Additionally, given the evidence of threats and intimidation, including the destruction of the child's property with an accompanying threatening note, I am issuing a temporary restraining order prohibiting Michael Wilson from approaching within 500 feet of Sarah or Tommy Wilson, their home, workplace, or school. She turned her stern gaze to Michael. Mr. Wilson, the evidence presented today suggests potential criminal acts, including false imprisonment, assault, witness intimidation, and attempted fraud. I am referring this matter to the District Attorney's Office for investigation and possible prosecution. You are ordered to surrender your passport to the court within 24 hours and to remain within the jurisdiction pending the outcome of that investigation. Michael stood abruptly. This is outrageous. I was trying to help my sister. She needs treatment, not— Mr. Wilson, Judge Benson cut him off sharply. You would be well advised to remain silent at this point. Your attorney can explain the implications of this ruling and your options going forward. This court is adjourned. As the gavel came down, the courtroom erupted in conversation. Sarah turned to Ethan, her expression a mixture of relief, joy, and lingering disbelief. It's over. Really over? The custody battle is over, Daniel clarified, joining them. The criminal investigation is just beginning, but yes, you and Tommy are safe now. You can go home. Tommy, Sarah said, suddenly urgent, I need to tell him. They found Tommy in the waiting room, nervously building a tower of blocks under Ms. Mercer's watchful eye. When he saw them, he froze, his expression a question he was afraid to ask. Sarah knelt before him, taking his small hands in hers. We're going home, sweetie. Together. Right now. Tommy's face transformed with joy. He threw himself into his mother's arms, then reached for Ethan, pulling him into the embrace as well. For a moment, they remained that way, a small, unlikely family unit forged through crisis and compassion. As they prepared to leave, Michael's attorney approached Daniel, speaking in hushed tones. Ethan caught fragments, settlement possibility, avoid criminal charges, generous compensation. Daniel's response was clear and firm enough for everyone to hear. Ms. Wilson isn't interested in settlements. Your client committed serious offenses. He'll face the consequences. Outside the courthouse, the autumn air felt fresher somehow, the mountains surrounding Pinewood Springs more vibrant with color. Sarah held Tommy's hand tightly as they descended the steps toward Ethan's waiting car. What about Scout? Tommy asked suddenly. You said he had an accident. Sarah and Ethan exchanged glances. Scout was damaged, Sarah explained gently, but we're going to get him fixed. Can I see him? Ethan hesitated, then nodded to Daniel, who retrieved the evidence bag containing the mangled bear. Tommy's eyes widened at the sight, but instead of crying, he reached for the bag with determination. He can be fixed, Tommy insisted. He just needs to be sewn up again. I want to keep him. As they drove through town toward Sarah's house, the house Michael had coveted enough to commit terrible acts, Ethan found himself contemplating the future. The legal battle was won, but Sarah was right about the challenges that remained. Small towns had long memories, and rebuilding her reputation would take time. And then there was his own situation, the company in Boston, the delayed meetings, the life he'd temporarily abandoned to help a desperate boy and his mother. Returning to that life now seemed somehow hollow, lacking the purpose and connection he'd found here. As if reading his thoughts, Sarah spoke softly from the back seat where she sat with Tommy. "You'll stay for dinner tonight, won't you? It's the least we can do." "I'd like that," Ethan replied, meeting her eyes in the rearview mirror. "Very much." In that exchange of glances was the unspoken possibility of more dinners, more shared moments, a future neither of them had anticipated when a desperate boy approached a stranger in the town square just 5 days earlier. For now, though, they had won their most important battle. The rest could wait until tomorrow. 3 weeks had passed since the courthouse victory, and autumn was deepening toward winter in Pinewood Springs. The maple trees lining Main Street had shed most of their vibrant leaves, creating a golden carpet that crunched underfoot as Ethan made his way toward Sarah's house for what had become a regular Sunday dinner. In his arms, he carried a large gift bag and a bouquet of mixed fall flowers. The familiar route from the town square to the Wilson home now felt natural to him, though he still maintained his suite at the Pinewood Springs Inn. His extended stay had become a topic of town gossip, but for once, Ethan didn't mind being the subject of others' speculation. Sarah's house, the house that Michael had coveted enough to commit terrible acts, was a charming 2-story Victorian with a wide front porch and gabled roof. As Ethan approached, he saw Tommy in the front yard, raking leaves into a pile with determined focus. The boy looked up at the sound of Ethan's footsteps, his face breaking into a wide grin. "Ethan!" Tommy abandoned the rake and ran to greet him. "Did you bring it? Is it fixed?" Ethan smiled, holding up the gift bag. "See for yourself." Tommy took the bag and peered inside, his expression transforming with wonder. He carefully lifted out the teddy bear, Scout, now meticulously restored. The professional repair had mended the torn seams, replaced the missing eye, and even refreshed the worn fur without destroying the bear's well-loved appearance. "He looks almost new," Tommy marveled, examining every detail, "but still like Scout." "The restoration specialist was very careful," Ethan explained. "She understood how important it was to preserve his character while making him whole again." Tommy hugged the bear tightly, then unexpectedly wrapped his arms around Ethan's waist. "Thank you," he whispered. The front door opened, and Sarah appeared on the porch, wiping her hands on a kitchen towel. She'd regained the healthy glow that had been missing during her hospital stay, and her golden hair was pulled back in a casual ponytail. The sight of her made Ethan's heart perform its now familiar skip. "I see Scout has finally come home," she said, smiling at her son's joy. "Dinner's almost ready. Tommy, can you finish the raking after we eat?" "But Mom, I want to show Scout everything that's changed." Sarah laughed. "All right, 10 minutes, then come wash up." As Tommy ran off with his restored companion, Sarah descended the porch steps to greet Ethan properly. Her kiss was brief but natural, the gesture of a woman growing comfortable with a new relationship. "He's been counting the days," she said, nodding toward Tommy, who was showing Scout his leaf pile with animated gestures. "That bear means the world to him." "I know," Ethan replied, handing her the flowers. "That's why I found the best restoration expert in New England." Inside, the house smelled of roasting chicken and apple pie. The cozy kitchen with its vintage appliances and warm wood cabinets had become one of Ethan's favorite places in the world. Here, over the past weeks, he'd spent evenings helping Tommy with homework, sharing meals with Sarah, and experiencing the simple domestic rhythms he'd never prioritized in his fast-paced corporate life. "Daniel called this morning," Sarah said, as she arranged the flowers in a mason jar. "The DA is moving forward with charges against Michael. Apparently they've uncovered evidence of other financial improprieties beyond what we knew about." Ethan nodded, leaning against the counter. "Sam mentioned that. Michael's gambling debts were just the tip of the iceberg. He'd been embezzling from the dealership for years, using creative accounting to hide it." Part of me still can't believe it, Sarah admitted. We grew up in this house together. He was my big brother, my protector once. How did he become someone who could... She trailed off, unable to articulate the betrayal. People change, Ethan said gently. Often so gradually they don't recognize it themselves until they're far down a dark path. Sarah nodded, then deliberately brightened. Dr. Chen stopped by the school yesterday. She's submitting a formal complaint against Dr. Stevens to the medical board. His license to practice might be suspended pending review. Good. He abused his position to help Michael discredit you. There should be consequences. They were interrupted by Tommy bursting through the back door, Scout tucked securely under his arm. Mum, there's a crow that made a nest in our oak tree. Scout and I saw it. Wash your hands for dinner, wildlife explorer, Sarah directed, with a smile. As they settled around the table, Ethan was struck by the easy domesticity they'd fallen into. Tommy chattering about his week at school, Sarah sharing stories about her return to teaching, Ethan contributing updates about the business he was now managing remotely, more often than not. Miss Patterson asked us to write about heroes today, Tommy announced between bites of mashed potato. I wrote about you, Ethan. Ethan nearly choked on his water. Me, I'm not a hero, buddy. Yes, you are, Tommy insisted. You believed me when nobody else did. You helped save Mum. That's what heroes do. Sarah reached over to squeeze Ethan's hand. He has a point, you know. Ethan felt a warmth that had nothing to do with the hearty meal. I think you're the real hero in this story, Tommy. You never gave up, even when adults weren't listening. After dinner, while Tommy was upstairs getting ready for bed, Sarah and Ethan sat on the porch swing, watching the last light fade from the sky. A comfortable silence settled between them, broken only by the rhythmic creaking of the swing chains. Hey. Got a call from Boston today, Ethan said finally. The board is getting restless about my extended absence. They're suggesting I either return full-time or consider a more permanent transition plan. Sarah stiffened slightly beside him. Oh, I see. I've been thinking about it a lot, Ethan continued. What I want, where I belong. The company has been my whole life for so long I never questioned it. And now? Sarah asked, her voice carefully neutral. Now I know there's more. Ethan turned to face her. I've spoken with my COO, Melissa. She's been effectively running things in my absence anyway. I'm going to propose she take over as CEO. Sarah's eyes widened. Ethan, that's a huge decision, are you sure? I've never been more sure of anything. I'll retain my position on the board, maintain my ownership stake. But I don't need to be in that office every day to feel fulfilled anymore. He took her hand. I've found something more important. What would you do instead? Sarah asked, a hint of hope creeping into her voice. There's a tech startup in Burlington looking for an experienced advisor. 3 days a week, flexible. Schedule. The other day, he squeezed her hand. Well, those would depend on what a certain second-grade teacher and her son might want to do. Sarah's smile was radiant in the gathering twilight. They might want to spend those days with you very much. From upstairs came Tommy's voice. Mum, I'm ready for my story. Sarah stood, pulling Ethan up with her. Would you like to read to him tonight? He's been wanting to show you how his reading corner is set up. In Tommy's room, Ethan found a space transformed. The walls, once decorated with generic superhero posters, now featured framed photographs. Tommy with his mother at a local fair, the three of them hiking on a nearby mountain trail. Scout propped against pillows in various scenic locations. A small bookshelf overflowed with children's books, and a reading lamp cast a warm glow over a beanbag chair large enough for an adult and child to share. Do you like my room? Tommy asked, already snuggled under his covers, Scout tucked beside. It's perfect, Ethan replied, selecting a book from the shelf. Ready for your story? Later, after Tommy had fallen asleep, Ethan found Sarah in the living room, reviewing lesson plans for the coming week. She looked up as he entered, her expression soft in the lamplight. He asked me something before he fell asleep, Ethan said, settling beside her on the couch. Something I wasn't sure how to answer. Sarah set aside her work. What was it? Asked if I was going to be his new dad. Ethan watched her face carefully. I told him that would be something for all of us to talk about together, when the time was right. Sarah's breath caught. And when might that time be? I don't want to rush you, Sarah. You and Tommy have been through so much. But I also want you to know that I'm not going anywhere. Whatever pace feels right for you for Tommy, that's what I want too. Sarah moved closer, resting her head against his shoulder. You know, for someone who spent years making split-second, multi-million-dollar decisions, you're being remarkably patient with us. Those decisions were just business. This is, Ethan searched for the right word. This is family. That's worth taking time to get right. The word hung in the air between them. Family. Not something either of them had expected to find. When a desperate boy approached a distracted businessman in the town square just a month ago. The town council issued a formal apology today, Sarah said after a moment, for rush to judgment and failure to properly investigate. The new council president personally delivered it. Better late than never, I suppose. It matters. Not for me. I've made my peace with how quickly some people turned on me, but for Tommy, so he can grow up in a community that acknowledged its mistake. That's important. Ethan nodded, understanding. Speaking of community, I've been looking at properties. Sarah raised her eyebrows. Properties? Plural? Just exploring. Options, Ethan said with a smile. The Henderson place on Lakeview Drive is for sale. 5 bedrooms, private dock, studio space that would be perfect for your painting. My painting? I haven't painted in years. Tommy mentioned you used to, that you stopped because Michael said it was a waste of time. Ethan shrugged. I thought maybe you'd want to start again. Sarah was quiet for a moment, then said softly, 5 bedrooms is a lot of space for 3 people. Room to grow, Ethan suggested, if that's something you might want. Someday. Their conversation was interrupted by the ringing of Sarah's phone. She frowned at the screen before answering. Hello? Yes, this is Sarah Wilson. Ethan watched as her expression shifted from confusion to shock, then to something like vindication. When she ended the call, her hands were trembling slightly. That was Sheriff Reynolds. They found documents in Michael's office safe, the real estate deal he was planning for Mum's property. It wasn't just about the money he could make selling it. The development company he was working with was planning to build condominiums, and they'd promised Michael a percentage of ongoing revenue, plus a position on their board. So it wasn't just a one-time cash grab, Ethan concluded. It was a long-term financial solution to his problems, and the final piece that explains why he became so desperate. Sarah shook her head. The sheriff said Michael's preliminary psychiatric evaluation suggests narcissistic personality disorder with antisocial features. The psychiatrist believes he genuinely convinced himself that he was entitled to Mom's property, that my objections were an attack on him personally. That doesn't excuse anything he did. No, Sarah agreed, but it helps me understand the brother I grew up with is still in there somewhere, but lost beneath layers of distorted thinking. She sighed deeply. I don't know if I'll ever be able to forgive him, but at least now I can begin to make sense of what happened. The clock on the mantel chimed 10. Ethan reluctantly stood. I should head back to the inn. Sarah walked him to the door, lingering in the entryway. You know about that Henderson place? I'd like to see it, if the offer's still open. It is. Ethan kissed her, a promise of tomorrow and many days after. Good night, Sarah. Good night, Ethan. The walk back to the inn gave Ethan time to reflect on the extraordinary changes in his life. A month ago, he'd been solely focused on acquisitions, market share, and quarterly earnings. Now he was contemplating a life in Vermont with a family that had come into his world through chance and desperation, but had quickly become essential to his happiness. The next morning dawned clear and cold, the first hint of frost silvering the grass in the town square. Ethan rose early, made several important calls to Boston, then met Sarah and Tommy for breakfast at the Hearth, the same cafe he'd initially entered while ignoring Tommy's pleas for help. I spoke with the realtor, Ethan told them over coffee, and hot chocolate. She can show us the Henderson place this afternoon. Can Scout come too? Tommy asked, the bear propped on a chair beside him. Absolutely. His opinion is very important. After breakfast, they walked through the town square, Tommy running ahead to chase pigeons while Sarah and Ethan followed at a more leisurely pace, their hands intertwined. "There's something else I should tell you," Sarah said. "I got a call from Vermont State University yesterday. They're looking for someone to develop a new education curriculum for their teaching program. It would mean a promotion, better salary, more challenging work." "That sounds perfect for you," Ethan said. "Are you going to accept?" "I'm considering it. It would mean commuting to Burlington 3 days a week." Ethan grinned. "What a coincidence. My potential advisory position is also in Burlington 3 days a week." "Almost like it was meant to be," Sarah replied, returning his smile. They reached the spot where they'd first met, where Tommy had begged for help and Ethan had nearly walked away. Tommy was there now, crouched down, examining something on the ground. "Look," he called as they approached, "the first snowflake. Winter's coming early this year." Sure enough, a few delicate flakes were beginning to drift down from the cloudy sky, melting as they touched the still warm pavement. "Let's make a wish," Tommy suggested, closing his eyes and tilting his face upward to catch a snowflake. "First snow is lucky." Sarah and Ethan exchanged amused glances but closed their eyes obligingly. When Ethan opened his, he found Tommy studying him intently. "Did you wish for something good?" the boy asked. Ethan looked at Sarah, then back at Tommy. "I didn't need to wish. Everything I want is already right here." Tommy considered this, then nodded sagely. "That's good, because I used my wish for all of us to be a family forever. Now it's sure to come true." Sarah laughed, drawing her son into a hug. "Wishes take time, sweetheart." "That's okay," Tommy replied with absolute confidence. "Ethan's not going anywhere, right, Ethan?" "Right," Ethan confirmed, joining their embrace as snowflakes continued to fall around them, transforming the ordinary town square into something magical. "I'm right where I belong." 6 months later, as spring blossoms adorned the trees of Pinewood Springs, a small gathering assembled on the shore of Lake Champlain. The Henderson property, now the Blackwell-Wilson home, provided a picturesque backdrop for an intimate wedding ceremony. Tommy, dressed in a miniature suit and clutching a freshly groomed Scout, proudly carried the rings. Sarah, radiant in a simple ivory gown, stood beside Ethan under an arch of wildflowers as they exchanged vows. Their journey had begun with a desperate plea for help and had transformed into a bond stronger than either could have imagined on that autumn day in the town square. Among the guests were Daniel Morgan and Sam Foster, whose expertise had helped bring Michael to justice, Dr. Chen, whose medical testimony had been crucial to Sarah's case, Emily the nurse, whose courage in coming forward had helped reveal the truth, and even Sheriff Reynolds, who had ultimately followed the evidence despite initial skepticism. Michael Wilson was conspicuously absent, serving the first year of his sentence for his crimes. Sarah had visited him once in prison, not seeking reconciliation, but closure. The meeting had been brief and tense, but necessary for her healing process. As Ethan and Sarah sealed their vows with a kiss, Tommy cheered louder than anyone, Scout raised triumphantly above his head. The small crowd applauded, celebrating not just a wedding, but the culmination of a story that had begun in fear and desperation and ended in joy and family. Later, as twilight settled over the lake and guests mingled on the expansive lawn, Ethan found Tommy sitting on the dock, Scout beside him, feet dangling above the water. "Room for one more?" Ethan asked. Tommy scooted over, making space. "Mum says I can call you Dad now, officially." "If that's what you want," Ethan replied, settling beside him. "I do. You're the best dad ever, even before it was official." Tommy leaned against Ethan's side. "I knew it would work out." "How's that?" "The day you came back. When you found Mum in the container, you said you believed me." Tommy looked up, his expression serious beyond his years. "Grown-ups don't always mean what they say, but you did. That's how I knew." Ethan felt a swell of emotion that still surprised him in its intensity. This child, who had once been a stranger, tugging desperately at his sleeve, was now his son in every way that mattered, and Sarah, the woman he'd helped rescue from a terrible fate, was now his wife, his partner, his home. From the lawn came Sarah's voice, calling them for the first dance. As Ethan stood and extended his hand to Tommy, he reflected on the extraordinary chain of events that had brought them to this moment. A desperate child, a reluctant businessman, a terrible conspiracy, all leading to this perfect spring evening and the family he'd never known he needed. "Coming, Dad?" Tommy asked, Scout tucked securely under his arm. "Right behind you, son," Ethan replied, following the boy toward their future, a future built on believing a child's plea when it mattered most. As they rejoined the celebration, Ethan caught Sarah's eye across the lawn. Her smile held all the promises of their shared journey, past, present, and the many days to come. In that moment, surrounded by friends and family in the home they'd created together, Ethan knew with absolute certainty that turning back that day in the town square had been the most important decision of his life. Not because he'd saved Sarah and Tommy, though that would always be significant, but because in choosing to listen when it would have been easier to walk away, he had ultimately saved himself, discovering a capacity for love, family, and purpose far beyond anything he'd known in his previous life of corporate success. And it had all begun with a child's voice crying out to be believed. If this story touched your heart, don't forget to subscribe to our channel for more emotional journeys that remind us of the power of trust and second chances. Leave a like and share your thoughts in the comments section below. Where are you watching from? Your engagement helps us bring more compelling stories to life. And if you enjoyed The Child Who Was Believed, be sure to check out our playlist of uplifting